Okay. How to remind our lead to close themselves, right? How we remind our lead to close themselves, or our leads to close themselves, right? First, the sales call that we speak to the lead on mirrors the hero's journey, which we'll talk about, right? But essentially, on the hero's journey, you, the agent, you assume the responsibilities and the role of a guide. So that you can help the lead whom we agree and we make sure is anchored in the hero state for their decision making, can attain coverage, which is the goal of the journey. Okay? Now let's break down a little bit more about, the expectations inside of these roles. So a guide is experienced, a guide is focused on making sure that we reach the goal. A guide provides the rules and the tools for success. So all of the needed tools, the mind frame, the capabilities, the calls to action, the road to success, the guide provides that, you provide that. And then most importantly, the guide reminds the hero of their role and of course the overall goal. Okay? Which brings us to the roles or characteristics of the hero, which we make sure to anchor and lock our lead in for the duration of the sales call, which is their journey to reaching their goal, which is coverage. Okay? Now their roles, or the role of a hero, right, is to be good, responsible, brave, and powerful with respect to their decision making in this situation. So each of the decisions they make need to be powerful, brave, responsible for the greater good. And the opposite of that, of course, would be making a decision that is weak, cowardly, irresponsible, or bad. So we want to make sure that we lock our lead in their hero state and anchor them there so that we don't get any bad, irresponsible, or cowardly, weak decisions about what to do as far as coverage for themselves, their loved ones, or whatever type of insurance we're selling this particular time. Okay? And of course, the goal, like we said before, is whatever coverage we're talking about. So the role here, and then the goal. Now, this is the overall idea, but it manifests inside of the steps to do with the actual sales call, right? Practically speaking, what's involved in a sales call? So a sales call involves an introduction, where we establish that we are the guide, right? Then information gathering, where we verify, then qualify the lead information. At this point, it'll likely be, several times that the lead has verified the information by the time they get to talk to you, especially if they're one of our leads, an RSH lead, because at the point where they see the advertisement on whatever social media platform they're at, and it becomes compelling enough for them to click on it, put in their information, authenticate their phone number, and then suggest a time that they would like to be called if not transferred. Then at the second point, once they get the call, or once we first interact with them, one of our assistants, either human or AI, will verify this information again, and then either transfer or book the call to you. And then at that point, you, as part of the sales call, inside of the framework that is a sales call, after you introduce yourself and establish that you are in fact the guide who entails all of these characteristics, then you do it again, because it's good to verify, it's good to make sure, right? Okay, so after we gather the information, then we're able to identify the actual pain point we're trying to solve, right? And the pain point involves the who, essentially the beneficiaries, and the why. Why our lead, at this point, anchored hero, believes they need coverage for themselves and their loved ones, right? Once we have identified the pain point, now we can provide the solution. And the solution essentially is going to be coverage, yes, like the bells and whistles of X coverage, whatever coverage, but more importantly, the benefits of coverage that speak to the pain point that we just highlighted or elicited through our questioning. After that, we help our hero go through their cost benefit analysis, and then they make the decision to buy. So this is the framework where this essentially this journey goes through. So if we look at this as the hero's journey and its mirror as a sales call or through the sales framework on the call, these two things are the same thing. Now we'll talk about where we fit the crucial aspects of locking the lead or anchoring the lead in their hero mind state inside of the sales call. Get another color. Okay, so after we establish that we are the guide who is, experienced, focused specifically on the goal for everyone involved, provides the rules and the tools, and of course reminds the hero of their role in the goal. Let's go over that again though. The role of a hero is to be good, responsible, brave, and powerful in their decision making. And of course, the goal at the onset is coverage. Now, how do we anchor the lead in their hero mind state, right? And to do that basically is to get the lead to acknowledge that they already make decisions right now that are good, responsible, brave, and powerful. And they need to use that mindset when they're considering the costs and benefits of coverage for themselves and their family. Okay, so how we do that is after the introduction. Oh, by the way, there's a video for each of these steps that goes more into depth of how to properly execute each of these steps so that the flow is always good. And you want to, go over this as much as you can, because this is your bread and butter here. This is how you make money. So the more you do it, the more comfortable you become with it, the better you are at it, the more efficient you are at it, and the better you become at understanding where you can become better. Okay, so at the point of information gathering, there's two types of information, right, that you want to verify then qualify. The first type is the demographic information. So that's info you've already gotten when you get the lead, right? So it'll be age, location, health, whatever is necessary, whatever preliminary questions need to be answered for this lead to even suggest or show that they have high intent, okay? So here, what's most important for this particular situation and how you anchor the lead in their hero state is you want to find out the beneficiary information. Among other things, all the information is important, but beneficiary information is important because it is the who in your pain point that you want to identify, which will help you in the next steps of speaking to the pain point in your solution and then helping with the cost benefit analysis, making it easier to decide to buy and having the lead close themselves, basically. So after you get this information, the next type of information gathering that you want to do is context. Okay, context information. That's literally, it's boiled down to two questions. It could be more. It's a conversation, so let it flow as it needs to flow. But you want to start with the general, what's going on. Okay? You want to ask what's going on. And you want to ask that because you want to get context. You want your lead to speak and tell you about the situation that they're going through and why it is they believe that they need coverage for the beneficiary. So, they'll talk about what they've been doing, the assets they built, what they're trying to protect, who they're trying to protect, and you want to listen to all of that. In fact, you want to listen, okay? You want to repeat, and you want to commend hero traits. Okay? You want to commend hero traits. So listen, repeat, and commend hero traits. You want to show, the best way to do this is to point out and honestly be grateful and thankful that there is a hero in the situation who cares about and looks after their loved ones. Because it's honestly a hard role to have, but it's necessary. Because if the hero doesn't do it, who's going to do it? The hero has to do it. So when you listen, repeat, and commend the things that they're doing right now for their family that are good, responsible, brave, and powerful, then you anchor them into their hero traits and their hero state decision making. Okay? And that's the mindset they need to carry for the rest of the conversation. So we need to agree that our lead is in fact a hero already. They need to agree to that. They need to see, understand, and agree to that. Then from there, the next question you want to ask, the next context question you want to ask is, what goal do we achieve with this coverage? Okay? So let's break down this question a little bit more. It's a very important question. This is, I would argue, the most important question. What goal do we achieve with coverage? So two things. The first thing is the goal originally was getting the coverage. This question asks for the state past the coverage, past us deciding to buy. What goal do we achieve with the coverage that we already have, right? So this is life after buying coverage. So it reframes our conversation past today, dealing with not having coverage, and then solving that problem with deciding to get coverage. What does that bring us after? And essentially, the answers you're going to get, that's the first thing. The second thing that I want to point out always is that it's we. We achieve it. We is you plus me. We is lead plus agent. We is guide plus hero, okay? We are on one side of the problem, and then on the other side of our issue is getting coverage. But it's not adversarial at all between these two. It's not guide versus hero. It's guide plus hero attains the goal, okay? Yeah, that was important to say thing. So what goal do we achieve with coverage? You're going to get answers that are essentially that we now have what? We now have a plan, right? We now have protection. We now are prepared. Preparation. Plan, and a plan for the unforeseen, and protection for yourself and for loved ones, and being prepared with that plan. That is coverage, okay? It's also peace of mind, right? A plan, protection, and preparation means you don't have to worry. Freedom from worry is peace. Okay? So coverage is peace of mind. So not only do we get the coverage, but we reach what is honestly a higher goal, or the goal of the goal, which is peace of mind. Okay? Such that peace of mind is a mirror to the coverage. So giving yourself peace of mind is getting coverage. And as a hero, the highest state of tranquility you can reach is peace. So we remind our lead to close themselves by giving themselves, well, by anchoring them in their hero state, and then giving our heroes the ability to give themselves peace by purchasing coverage. So let's continue on. What color am I using here? Let's go back with orange. Okay, so I say all that to say, now we have our why, right? Boom. So now we can identify the pain point. Once we identify the pain point, now we can talk about the coverage, but more specifically, more importantly, the benefits of the coverage that speak to the pain point that we've been able to identify, okay? From there, we go over the cost versus benefits, which essentially is, it's a practice of assessing all of the perceived costs involved with making this purchase, right? So, and I say perceived costs because none of these costs at the end of the day are more important than the benefits of the coverage or the peace of mind that the hero gives himself by getting the coverage. But if they're not properly anchored in their hero state, then they may be thinking from a less powerful, more cowardly, irresponsible, or bad mind frame, which is why it's important that we remind our hero of their role and the goal. That's our job, right? As the guide, right? So we go over the costs and we assess how the benefits of coverage, X coverage, plus now we can stack the peace of mind, how they significantly outweigh the costs, so the costs becomes negligible, right? And that makes the decision to buy the next step. Because like we said here, decision to buy is the next step. like we said here, our lead, who we anchor in their hero state, gives himself peace by attaining coverage. So deciding to buy is the next step you make, the next obvious step to make, because the reason why they don't feel peace is that they don't have a plan, protection, or preparation for themselves and their family in the face of the unknown or the unaccounted for. But once they do that, they'll give themselves the peace from the preparation, the protection, and the plan, and peace is coverage. So you make it a no-brainer. And then, like I like to say, we make not buying become so unreasonable that the only reasonable thing to do is buy. So essentially, that's how we remind our lead to close themselves, because we remind our lead to give themselves the peace of mind, or we remind our hero to give themselves the peace of mind that they seek by doing more of what they already do, which is make powerful, brave, responsible, and good decisions, including this one.